Hi, and welcome to Suitcase Coder, the podcast. My name is Laura, and I'm the host of this podcast where I share my journey from joining a coding bootcamp to becoming a freelance web developer. With this podcast, I hope to inspire future techies, freelancers, and digital nomads as I share what I've learned along the way. Now, I may not be a digital nomad just yet, but as we'll talk about today, it's one of my end goals. As someone who took forever to realize what she wanted to do with her life, aka me, I took forever and switched majors a ton of times and was super lost until just last year. I wanted to share with you the importance of knowing your why. Starting with the obvious, what is why? So for me, knowing your why or having a defined why you're doing something is a mixture of the thing that's motivating you to do it, as well as the thing that you want to achieve. So it's really a mixture of your end goal along with your motivator. And this is something that I did before getting started with my coding bootcamp, but after I had already spent a couple of months on learning on my own on Free Code Camp and Codecademy, because I wanted to make sure, I wanted to be extra super sure that I was doing it for the right reasons and that I knew what I wanted to do once I got out of this. So I took an hour and I sat down at my desk and I wrote down why I was doing the thing that I was doing and what I wanted to do once I had achieved this goal, which was learning to code and becoming a developer. So I really took it to heart, and it's something that has helped me throughout the journey from beginning to end, and it's still something that I look at every day. And in part, it's the reason why this podcast is even here. It's part of the thing that will make me reach my own end goal, which is, like I said earlier, to travel the world as a remote developer. Okay, so now that you know what your why should be, or at least an idea of what a why is, I want to go ahead and break this down into three different things. One being, why do you need a why? Two being, how do you even get about doing your why? And three is, how in the world is knowing your why important to software development? So let me go ahead and get started with, why do you even need a why? So like I said, it was extremely helpful for me because I struggled a lot throughout the boot camp. That's when knowing your why really comes into play, because in times where you're struggling or in times when you're kind of doubting yourself or your skills, you can always look back to your why and say, okay, this is why I'm doing it. Get it? Why? Okay, this is why I'm doing it, and this is what's going to motivate me today. Knowing your why really helps to get you up in the mornings and give you a reason to get up and work towards these goals that you've set for yourself, because you have a purpose, you have something to look forward to, because you know that if you put in the hard work right now, then it'll pay off in the end, or at least it'll get you closer to your end goals. So those are the reasons why I think you need a why, and maybe you can come up with a couple more reasons for yourself as to why having a finish line of sorts or a vision board or like a path to follow can help you in your day-to-day. Now on to the next thing. How do I even go about setting a why? Like I said, it took me about an hour to sit down and write my why, as well as writing out my end goals, and they kind of mesh together, so maybe I'm mixing two things in one here. But how to write your why and how to make your why and how to go about using it, I would say give yourself an hour, like an uninterrupted hour. Sit at your desk with a piece of paper and a pen, or your computer, however you feel like jotting down notes, and first do a mind dump. Now if you've never heard of this, a mind dump is pretty cool. It's literally just a blank page where you write down everything that's currently going on in your mind. And this can be a little bit focused toward your goal. So if you're wanting to learn to code, you might be wondering, do I do a boot camp or do I go to college for this? Do I learn JavaScript or Java or Python? Do I want to become a web developer, a web designer, UI, UX person? There might be so many questions in your mind. So this kind of helps just put everything on paper, and then from that you start asking yourself different questions okay, what do I want my end goal to be? What do I want? What kind of life do I want to live? What do I see myself doing in a few years from now, or once this is all over? What is the purpose of me making this transition into development? And it may be something very specific. Maybe you want to be Google's next CEO, and so your reason is to become the CEO of Google. But from there, you're going to be able to backtrack and say, okay, what are the steps I need to take in order to become the CEO of Google? And maybe that's not development, who knows? But the important thing is that you know your why and that you know how to use it. And once you have these jotted down, you can go ahead and narrow them and try to narrow it down to one sentence or two sentences that really summarizes the reason why you're doing the thing that you want to do. And therefore, you will have your why. And so the next big step would be to take this why, this 1 to 2 sentences, and post it somewhere where you will be seeing it every single day. Whether that's on your computer, a calendar reminder, or on a post-it in your room, wherever you know you're going to see it every day. This is just kind of like a daily reminder of, okay, this is why I'm doing this, and it's going to hopefully push you and like motivate you to do the things that you want to do. Also, something that really helped me is doing what I'm doing right now, which is sharing it with everybody, sharing my goals and my like reason for doing things with everybody so that it keeps me accountable. And whether I stick to it or not is okay, as long as it's still a reason that I believe in. And mind you that this reason, your why, can change at any given moment, and it can be a drastic change and it can be a little change. It's adaptable and flexible, and it's your life and it's your reason, but at least you'll have like a guideline, you'll have a path, and you'll have something to follow when you're a little bit lost or when you're discouraged. Okay, now that you know how to figure out your why, I want you to pause me for an hour. It's okay, I'll still be here, I won't get offended, but go ahead and pause me and take an hour out of your day and write down your why. Do a brain dump, figure out what's pushing you to do what you want to do. Go. I'll wait. All right, I'm back. Are you done? Have you figured out your why? If you haven't, that's totally okay. It might take longer than an hour. It might have only taken you 10 minutes. But regardless, I'm going to go ahead and keep going, which brings me to my last point, which is how does knowing your why apply to becoming a software developer? So as I said earlier, I attended a boot camp, and there were times when I was struggling. So in these scenarios, I think it's important to pull out your why, or like look at that post-it that you put on your computer and say, okay, I have an end goal, I know why I'm doing this, and it just helps you kind of push harder. And once you have like your long-term reason why you're doing the thing that you're doing, I think it's possible to like break it down into your day-to-day. So let's say you have this like big capstone project that you want to finish so that you can get it on your resume, so that you can apply to the job that you've always wanted. So you get my gist. It gives you an end goal, and it gives you a way to work backwards from there, which essentially just gives you a to-do list at the beginning of the day. So I also think it can help boost your career, because if you have a purpose of wanting a promotion or wanting to work on a really cool project or wanting to work with a specific team, then that will drive you on a daily basis to work towards that goal and that purpose. So that's really all I have to say. I really do hope that you take the time to realize your why. And if you would like me to share some of your whys or some of the ways that it has helped you, then go ahead and send them to me on Instagram or Twitter, and I'll be happy to share some of these on next week's episode. For this week's coding challenge, I'm going to add a little bit of CSS using HTML and CSS. Create a button that changes background colors from green to blue when you hover over it. And that's it for this week. If you would like to watch these episodes recorded, please head over to my YouTube channel at Suitcase Coder. And don't forget to subscribe and click that notification button, which sounds so weird to say. But it really does help me out. And let me know what you would like to see more of. And let me know what you would like to hear more of on these podcasts. Thanks for listening, and until next week. Ciao.